So, shall we begin? I hope I'm audible well.
Yes, Aditya.
Yeah, thank you. So, hello and good evening to everyone present here. I, Aditi Bhatodekar, welcome you all to the first activity of the Project Assam series, PRARAMBH. Project Assam is a series of activities under the initiative National Integrity Tour of National Service Scheme, Fergusson College, Pune. The main aim of NIT is to explore the Northeast Indian states and their culture. And to get to know a region, its culture, its working, it is important to interact with its people. Today, we are lucky to have an opportunity to do so. We have amongst us a young entrepreneur from Assam, Drishti Medhi ma'am, the co-founder of Quick-Ghy, a service aggregator in Guwahati. She graduated from the Assam Engineering College as an electrical engineer. She is passionate about entrepreneurship, international relations, and technology. She has experience of working with several organizations and holding the office of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of Assam Engineering College as the secretary for the year 2018-19. Drishti ma'am has also been a delegate to the Harvard Project for Asia and International Relations 2018 in Malaysia and a delegate of the Young India Challenge 2019 at IIT Delhi. Ma'am, we are happy to have you here today. I once again welcome you all to this program. And without further ado, I ask my co-leader, Rishikesh Dada, to continue with the program.
Yes. Am I audible, Aditya? Yes. Thank you, Aditya. So, without any delay, let's start with this interaction. So, my first question is to ma'am is, can you please tell us a little bit about the place where you grew up and how was your school life experience and do you miss it?
Thank you, everyone, first of all, for having me here. It's always a pleasure to interact with students. I belong from Assam. I grew up in Guwahati, and I did my schooling and my engineering from Guwahati itself. I went to Maharshi Vidya Mandir. It's a school in Assam itself, and growing up, my school life has been, I think it has been just as similar as any other kid. I was very competitive. I wouldn't say I was the most brightest child when it came to academics. I would rather say I was a mediocre child, but I was very competitive. I was someone who would always wanted to do a lot of things besides academics. And that was something that kept me going throughout my school life. So that was a period that I started learning more about what my, interests actually lies in. And that was a time that I definitely enjoyed a lot. So I would say the school life has been pretty interesting, pretty much enjoyable. And talking about whether or not I miss it, some days, sure, especially when the stress gets to me. So that's pretty much about it.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. School plays an important life in everyone's life.
Indeed.
So, could you please tell us what inspired you to develop this application? Means, I guess your brother is founder of Quick-Ghy and he completed his master's in history, and you are the co-founder of the same. So, how was it, and what is the idea of Quick-Ghy, and how is your experience starting venture, especially in Assam?
Right. So. The startup ecosystem in India, if you remember, it started long way back from the time of like 2009, 2012, and it started eventually catching up. However, the scenario, the startup ecosystem in Assam started catching up pretty late comparatively to the rest of India. I think the first Assam startup policy was laid out in the year 2017. And you need these policies in place so that it helps ideas and businesses to accelerate and, they can go forward and actually lay the foundation of businesses because startups are very different than traditional businesses here. Talking about how I actually came up with the idea was, again, like I said, this answer will be very much similar to what I was actually like as a student. Even during my engineering days, I would always be someone who would like to explore more beyond what is being taught in the classroom and I knew that something was missing while I was just, reading about just engineering. And that made me go to several events, meet a lot of people, try to figure out whether or not there is a possibility of starting up in Assam. And if so, what are the support that I can get, or the mentors, and or how do I even go about it? So there were a lot of questions. And while I went to several B plan competitions, and since I was also particularly working with few startups when I was in college, I was interning with few startups. And then I got to know that there is definitely a possibility of starting a business here. Back in 2017, my brother started with the market survey of whether or not such services are required here in Assam, and whether or not people would be willing to, take such services, not particularly via an application, but whether or not they would want such comfort at their home. So it took some while. It started from 2017, 2018, and finally by the end of my third year of engineering, I had sort of figured out that I would probably not go for, a full-time job right after college, and that maybe I would want to try out something in the space of, the whole startup ecosystem, because by then the incubation center in Assam had also come up. And there were a lot of startups already prior to us who were doing good business in the state. So when with the establishment of such incubation centers and seeing such support of other startups which were already thriving in this place, I thought there's a possibility here. And when my brother told me first to join him just as an intern to help him with the social media marketing and just as a content writer, it seemed like a good opportunity for me because I was still studying back then in engineering. So I did that, and it's a story that started from there, because back then it was still an idea which still had to figure out how it would take shape into a company.
Absolutely, ma'am. So my next question is, many people are a bit skeptical about the digital marketplace as it has no physical presence. So how will you reassure them and gain their trust from both the service providers and the consumers, especially in northeastern states?
I think that's a very good question, because when we started, one of the major challenges was to even build the essence of the existence of such apps, because there were a section of people who were acquainted with the idea of existence of such apps because Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Zomato were already there. But getting services at their home via an app, and again, there are two particular categories that we're dealing with. First, the service providers, then the customers. It was definitely a challenge, and first we had to take the traditional approach. Without the on-ground marketing activities, without creating the awareness, without making people understand that how these things work, it was a big challenge for us. So we took the traditional approach of getting orders via phone call. Some people were very well acquainted with getting orders via WhatsApp. Some of them would just want to place an order via the social media presence if they would want to, talk to us via Facebook or Instagram if they were using such platforms. And that over the years of 1.5 years, when people knew about the existence of the company, and once the maturity of the company had reached to such a stage that more people knew about it, and there was a proper establishment in the supply chain side as well, like creating awareness programs for all these service providers, like how do we make them understand that there is an app where they can just get an order, because even they were just functioning very traditionally in the market. People would just call them if they knew them personally, and then they would get the service done, and that is how it used to go about it. So a lot of going back to the fundamentals of establishing a business was more important rather than just launching an app. Because if you have an idea and you launch an app, the business will not be successful. I think that's one of the primary lessons that we had learned when we first launched the startup.
Yes, ma'am. It's really very hard to reassure them for people, especially for new ventures. So my next question is, what do you think about an entrepreneurial mindset? What did you have in mind when you started your venture?
So, when you call about an entrepreneurial mindset, there are certain qualities that I believe that most entrepreneurs have now. These are things that I have noticed among my colleagues, friends, and people from the startup ecosystem that has a very, common ground between all of them. First is most entrepreneurs are very, very creative. It is not always a very innovative idea or something that is very new that is always a success. But, creative approaches towards, coming up with a solution to an existing problem has been, if you actually can, figure out about the existing businesses. Creativity has one of the most primary factors that actually helps business sustain. Second would be resilience is one of the traits that I think most entrepreneurs have, especially in the early days when you are already struggling with so many things when it comes to establishing your team, when it comes to managing your money, when it comes to managing your business, and so many other things, multiple things, right? And especially in moments of adversity, when you are required to be not just the leader to your team, but also to manage multiple things. Resilience is one of the traits that actually helps you get through all of it. Third is, becoming extremely comfortable with the fact that failure is inevitable at any point. But how do you actually come back from failure is one of the most important things, again, in the when it comes to talking about the entrepreneurial mindset, because some things might go wrong at any point in time, but understanding that you can always come back from those situation is important. So qualities like these is what I believe reflects about the entrepreneurial mindset. These qualities, these were not things that I already had when I started the journey, but I think these are things that I have learned so far, and I still keep learning every single day as I keep building the business. So it has been a journey so far.
Absolutely, ma'am. My next question is, what are the three biggest challenges that you face when your startup launch, especially in Assam?
Three biggest challenges, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The top three big challenges would be, first of all, finding the right talent here. It is not because there are not there isn't a lot of talent. There definitely are a lot of talented people here, a lot of talented students. But I think the presence of such people when it comes to their own personal branding, or when it comes to creating awareness about the skills that they have, or even working with the basic etiquette of either how to apply for a job or how do we communicate with people. These were things that we had noticed early in the in the early days of when we were started hiring people. And given the fact that we are headquartered in Guwahati, it was always, and it always will be a responsibility that we create more job opportunities here. And just because this particular challenge was here did not mean that we did not go with the hiring process. Again, the second challenge was, how do we change this culture, even if people did not know about certain things, because things have been different here, right? Again, traditional businesses functions way different versus how startups function, way different, because one thing about startups is things change very quickly, right? Things may look a certain way today, it may change overnight, and whether or not you are that much adaptable to such change, where a very alien concept to most people. But how did we try to change it? It was, we focused more on how do we guide these students, particularly because we worked with a lot of young talents in the early days of starting the company, that how can we actually help them imbibe the culture? How do we build the changes among the team, first of all, so that once, say for example, if they were intern at the company, if once they leave the company, at least they would be able to tell other people about the things that they have learned, and that would eventually change. Sure, that's a very small number, but there is something to start with. Second is, again, the second challenge is the first time that I already told you about. People were not very well acquainted with using the app for getting services at their home. The numbers are still very low till now, but it is slowly catching up. That was the second challenge. And I think the third challenge would be, since we were primarily working with the blue collar job sector, now this is a very fragmented market, right? How do we go about getting all these talents in the market? They were already freelancing on their own. They were making good money. How do we go about and get, the trust of all these people that we will be able to generate good business for them? We will be looking after them and we will be contributing to their overall welfare. So these were the top three challenges that we had faced.
I would say that entrepreneur never falls short of challenges, and especially when you are launching uneven venture. So yes, my next question is: I have heard a lot about the how you provide a different services, including mental health service too. So could you please elaborate on the service, various other services that you have, and how are you getting response from local people?
So the mental health initiative was taken more of a, it was a momentary decision during the pandemic, because we saw a lot of people struggling, not just from our own personal network, but we started getting feedback from people that they were in need of such services. Also, practicing, there were practicing psychologists, there were counselors who wanted to organize these webinars or sessions for people who wanted to help out. So that was a momentary thing we did during the pandemic for 2-3 months. And we are yet to figure out how we would want to take it further in the business. Second is, we recently acquired a company from Guwahati itself, and we are launching a new program for especially focusing on the personality development, soft skills, and communication. Now, this need arises from the fact that I shared when I shared about the challenges that we faced earlier, right? There are talents here, but we realize the need of a lot of etiquettes to be taught to people about a lot of soft skills and communication and personality development that was needed here. However, besides launching this program, especially for school kids, we are also working extensively for the overall welfare of the blue collar job sector, right? And when it comes to the overall welfare of these people, we are also thinking about how can we contribute towards indirectly to their family or their kids. And this allows an opportunity to help us, contribute to either the communication or the soft skills of their kids as well. So these are small initiatives that we are taking so far, besides the regular services that we have.
It's really great, ma'am. It's really great. So my next question is, because of COVID pandemic, how have things been for you now? What are the changes you made? And we are sure because Maharashtra was on the top of the list. So how is the situation for you now and for your venture?
I think I lost you in between. I think you're on mute.
Hello, am I audible to you, ma'am? So, thank you. Sorry for inconvenience. So my next question is to ma'am is, because of COVID pandemic, how have things been for you now? What are the changes you made? Because we are sure because Maharashtra on the top of the list. So how was the situation for you and for your venture?
Again, given the fact that we're in the service sector, and that was one of the sectors that really saw a lot of drastic changes, right? Again, because we were sending people to their homes to get services done. A lot of people had questions regarding the hygiene, about their safety because of the entire COVID situation. And that did saw a bit of decline in the services that we were catering to back in the pandemic. However, post pandemic, there has been a increase in demand because suddenly, the lifestyle started changing, right? With the workload coming back again, and a lot of people actually wanting to get things done quickly and efficiently. A lot of people had started opting for, their online deliveries, or getting their groceries at home, or quickly getting their services fixed at home. So although there had been a decline during the pandemic period for quite some time, it was like at a stretch of 5 to 6 months, it has slowly started getting back on track again. So particularly the major changes that we saw was, first of all, people safety. Second, of course, the service partner safety. Until and unless the entire vaccination was not done, a lot of people were concerned, about their safety. Again, we had to ensure all of the service partners actually had their vaccinations done. So these were minor challenges, but we eventually came out of it.
Yes, ma'am. So next question is, what do you wish to do with the business in the future? Definitely expansion, but anything else? And how can your venture improve sector, especially in Assam?
Like you said, it's, regarding the expansion, right? We have already expanded to 3 cities across Assam, and we are planning to, expand to more other places in Assam. However, when you talk about what is the future plan about the business, especially given that we are in the service sector, we would be extensively working, particularly with the blue collar sector again, because our aim when we started the business has always been to empower the blue collar sector and work for their welfare. Second is to obviously improve the entire supply chain of all these services, and how can we get services more accessible and more connected for not just the people of Assam, but we are particularly looking for Northeast as well. There are a lot of opportunities coming up for, besides our regular business, we're also helping other small businesses help establish their presence online, because right now we have a good number of team who can actually help offer these services, especially about digitizing their businesses, building their online presence, or when it comes to managing their social media. So these are small steps that we are taking, and we aim to become a one-stop solution for every services that you can think of, not just home but offices and small businesses as well.
Great. So my next question is there anything you would like to tell other young students about entrepreneurship, or how they could you get over obstacles and be more focused on their startups?
Okay, to about entrepreneurship and how focusing on startups, I think I would like to go back to the traits that I had shared earlier, right? Success will definitely not come to you overnight. Consistency and persistence is extremely important, especially if you want to start up. Be very open to ideas and everything that people are sharing around you, because you need to have the ability to absorb a lot of information if you actually want to work on something on your own. You need to be extremely observant. Third is, no matter how difficult it gets, be resilient throughout the journey, because that will help you get through a lot of limitations and shortcomings. But always do your research before starting up. You need to have a proper concept, the concept that you have, or the idea in your head that you have, it needs to have a proper proof before you go out in the business, because you might have a very great idea that might look very exciting to you, but it may or may not be viable in the market. So always test your ideas before you launch your business. If something doesn't work out, something else definitely will be. So keep playing around with ideas is what I would like to tell the young people here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So we found the form of free counseling on your Insta handle about women startups of Assam for Assam people. So what's that?
So in the last, I wouldn't say just the last 2 years, but since I had been studying the startup ecosystem at Assam since when I was in college itself. Now, these numbers don't just particularly reflect about Assam only, but if you talk about women in business in general. Now, India, if you have been following the news, we've had around 34 unicorns this year, right? 34 unicorn just came out day before yesterday. I believe it was Echo. And among all these unicorns this year, there has been only one unicorn that was female-led, which was, again, Nika. And if you go there around and among those numbers, there are a total of 136 unicorns, if I remember correctly, and around 3 or 4 startups that are female-led. Now, these are the numbers reflecting India only. Now, let's come back to Northeast. Any unicorns? Not yet. Let's come back to Assam. Any unicorns? Again, not yet. Now, we are not talking about unicorns in startup, but we are talking about women, female-led startups that has actually made it to the news. There are a lot of successful businesses here, amazing women leaders, amazing women in businesses that I personally know and I have had the pleasure of working with and learning from them. But why are we not making it to the mainstream media? Why are we not making it to the headlines? Is there a gap in how we have been mentored? Is there a gap in the skills that we've been taught in colleges? Or is there a gap in the opportunities that these young female college-going students or school students in particular are not well aware of? While I refuse to believe that in the idea that the opportunities are not there, it is definitely there, but there somewhere or the other there has to be a gap of whether or not there's enough awareness or whether or not they are getting the right connect to the mentors in the particular industry that you're looking forward to. So since my domain of interest and my forte has been in business so far, and I have particularly been in the startup ecosystem in the last 2 years, and seeing these numbers, especially the disparity in numbers so far, I decided to start a free, one-on-one mentoring sessions, especially for college students and school students, girls, if they would want to start up, if they are even thinking of joining the startup ecosystem, if not particularly their own business, if they would even want to know anything about how to lay the foundation of a business. So I thought, why not start with the initiative? So far, I've seen a good number, and the sessions are going to start from next week. So this is the particular reason why I took upon me to, start with something like this.
That's a great initiative, ma'am. So last question from my side. How's your experience with National Service Scheme Fergusson College?
It has been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And like I said, it's always a pleasure to speak to young students. It's
Yes.
always so much to learn from all of you.
Now, if audience have any questions, please put in the chat box. Till then, Mayuritai will continue with the rapid fire round. Mayuritai.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Mayuri.
We will be taking a rapid fire round now, in which you will be expected to answer a questions in a few sentences in a short span of time. The motive behind rapid fire round is for our volunteers to get to know you more as a person. Now, let's begin with the questions. First question is, when are you most inspired? That is, at what time of the day? Rarely in the morning or late at night?
Definitely early in the morning. So quiet, so peaceful, so much time to ponder upon, so much time to myself. So early in the morning.
Where do you prefer to live, rural or urban area?
I think at this point in my life, urban area. The answer might change later in my life though.
What is the one thing that you would like to put in your bucket list?
Go to Machu Picchu.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Given the fact that I'm in business and with the way the startup ecosystem is moving in India, definitely in India. No, I don't know the city though. In India only.
What is the first thing that you notice about someone when you meet them?
Their eyes.
If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Wow. Untold stories. Untold stories.
Were you always interested in pursuing entrepreneurship?
No, I was not.
What is a delicacy of Assam that you would recommend our volunteers?
Definitely try the Assamese thali. That has a lot of food. Please try that.
What is your favorite thing about Assam?
I cannot say one. The people, it's my home, and the culture.
And lastly, if you were to describe Assam in one word, where would you describe it?
The land of blue hills and red rivers. Paradise, sure.
Okay, ma'am. We have our Deepa ma'am with us. I request Deepa ma'am to. Hello, Deepa ma'am. I think she has some internet problems. We'll move forward. So, yeah, so this has been an amazing session. I've enjoyed it a lot, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, so our program has now come to an end. And ma'am, yeah.
Advaita have questions.
Oh, really?
Advaita have questions. In the chat box of Gmail.
Yeah, just. Okay, so Advait Joshidada is asking, what are the opportunities for students from other parts of India in Northeast India?
So I'll just answer this from the startup perspective. A lot of startups, especially in the tourism sector and also in the tech space, has actually gained a lot of good business here. You would definitely would want to check out these startups for internship opportunities. And if you're someone who's interested in the tourism space or someone interested in the sustainability space, definitely check them out. I think there's one more question.
Yes. If you weren't always planning on being an entrepreneur, how did you decide to pursue this path?
I think there are certain things that eventually start making sense. Okay, my plan was after engineering to definitely go for masters abroad, just like any other generic engineering kid in India. But because I saw the opportunity while I was working in college with several other startups, when I got the opportunity of interning here with my elder brother and I eventually started working on it, Post 2019, when 2020 the whole pandemic thing happened, we were all at home, and the startup got incubated at Assam startup, and once business starts running, I think things change. So that changed my entire mindset of discarding my master's plan and pursuing to be an entrepreneur, and here I am.
Well, that's nice. How is the culture of other parts of India affecting the business world in our Northeast India?
Um, I believe culture, as in I believe you're talking about the work culture. Um, so when it comes to the work culture, people are a little different here. People, the way they take up the work responsibilities and the way they respond are also very different, which is why it might just come off as a big surprise to most people, especially if you're coming from outside the Northeast. However, again, because when I told about the establishment of incubation centers and coming up of so many startups across the state, that has changed the entire ecosystem and the entire work culture here, because a lot of people are starting to realize about the opportunities and the potential that businesses have to grow in particularly this part of the region, given the fact that we are very rich in resources, and we are very rich when it comes to in sustainable resources, but in particular. So again, in relation to the entire startup ecosystem changing drastically in India, that has definitely changed and made people come up with more businesses here in Northeast as well, and it's just catching up more.
Yes, that's very nice to hear that startups in India are increasing and developing. So I guess the questions are over now, and so our program has now come to an end. Drishti ma'am, we thank you again for being here and interacting with us today. Through this program, we had an opportunity to learn a lot of new things. On behalf of our Vidnyan Prasar team, I thank the NSS program officers, Shivaji Kokate sir, Deepa Kulkarni ma'am, and Santosh Farande sir for giving us an opportunity to conduct this program. I also thank our CRs, Advait Joshi and Riddhi Chakdare, for their constant support and encouragement. And to all those who were present today, thank you so much. I once again thank everyone and wish you all a very happy Diwali. I declare that the program is over. Thank you.
Thank you so much.